I'm sure all of us can relate to feeling like it's impossible to crawl out of this place of depression, or your thoughts are thinking there's so much momentum going in a direction that you don't want. And today's video, I wanted to bring this up because trying to jump from a feeling of depression to a feeling of joy, 9 times out of 10 just doesn't happen, and it's really hard to do. But if you constantly reach for a thought that feels better than the last thought, you will eventually find yourself feeling more and more calm, peace, and joy. But it takes consistency, and it takes conscious awareness of the thoughts that you were thinking and how you are feeling about the thoughts that you were thinking. Because your emotions are always telling you how far away you are from your inner being's perspective. So if you are in despair and helplessness and powerlessness, then you are very, very far away from the perspective of your inner being. And your inner being is calling you, trying to call you back to where their perspective is, which is when you feel joy and ecstasy. And sometimes, in fact, nearly all the time, your inner being will call you through emotions that seemingly don't fit that joy and ecstasy. For example, people that are in deep depression and despair and helpless and hopelessness, their inner being might inspire them to a thought of anger, because anger is far more empowering and makes you feel more empowered than a feeling of depression or helplessness. And your inner being will use that anger to help you move and shift from depression to anger, and then from anger it'll go up again. And sometimes we move through these so quickly that we don't realize that we're doing it. You are moving all the time, and it's only when you get say you're really positive, happy friend, and it's like, you shouldn't be feeling angry, you should be feeling love. And it's like, well, I can't reach for a thought of love right now because I've only just been hanging around in despair for so long that anger was the best that I could do. And that's why sometimes talking to other people about how you're feeling can backfire, because they don't know that you feel a little bit of relief in this feeling of revenge or anger. And unless they are your inner being, and unless they have a full understanding of where you've come from to feel that anger or revenge, then they don't know that you've made an improvement, and any improvement in your mood is going the right direction. All you got to do is you just got to keep focusing in that direction more consistently. You don't have to hang around in anger or revenge for very long before you can find other thoughts that feel better than that, like pessimism or even boredom. Boredom's a great one, because then it's becoming more and more neutral, and when you find that neutral place, then you can find maybe a little bit of contentment, maybe brief moments of calm. The way to do this is to always reach for a thought that feels better, but also stop looking to the circumstances that started this whole thing. If you had a really bad toxic relationship and you're going through a breakup and you're feeling despair or sadness or grief, then stop thinking about it. For one, it's all that consistent thinking about it and ruminating over it that's creating more and more of these emotions. So unless you have the capacity to think about that situation in a more positive light and get a better perspective on it, stop thinking about it. Honestly, it is creating more and more of this negative feeling that you're feeling. And not only that, but when you are creating more of that negative feeling, you're actually creating more evidence from the universe that those thoughts and feelings that you have are true. And so the best thing that you can do is get off the subject that's causing you to feel like shit, because if you keep thinking about it, it's going to make it worse. So distraction is your best friend in those moments. And I did that myself. Like, I had a few oh my God, I had a big period of time where I was like really just not in a great mood, and it felt really hard most days. But what I knew enough about the law of attraction to know that ruminating on it was only making it worse. And catching yourself when you start to ruminate on it, because it can feel so natural when you're in those states to think about shitty things. But catch yourself when you're doing it and consciously direct your thought to something that feels better. Find a really good book. A fantasy book is amazing because it's not even in this reality, and so it distracts your brain enough from it so that you actually start to feel a little bit better. And I noticed that in those times I'd read my book all the time. I'd be like, I finished reading my book and I'd find this relief. I'd be like, oh, I feel a little bit better. And then you try and hold that state as long as you can until you start to feel yourself tip, and then you distract yourself again. And you do that long enough so then your inner being can deliver to you more inspiration and more ideas that are going to be good for you. Because if you don't take control of your mind and you let yourself think about all this shit that's ever gone wrong in your life, and you pull up all the history that feels like how you're feeling, because law of attraction is matching you up with more and more thoughts and feelings and experiences that match how you're feeling. So if you're feeling severely depressed, then it's pretty natural for your mind to pick out everything that feels that way, because it's just matching. And so if you can just direct your thought to something that feels a little bit better, and that constant molding of your direction of thought will help give you the relief, and it will help lift that depression off of you, because your focus is the most important thing. Now, another thing, getting outside more often will help your mood significantly. And in fact, one of the years that I was really quite depressed was when I was living in my van, and I loved it because I noticed that anytime I was outside, I was feeling so much better, so much clearer. And moving your body, get off your butt and go for a walk. Even if you don't feel great when you're walking, it's going to improve your mood. Any little tiny improvement that you can make when you're in those really dark days is helping, and that's the work. The work is to constantly reach for thoughts that feel better, and the work is to make sure that what you're focusing on is going to help push you in the right direction, and not to aim for perfection, and not to compare yourself to other people who are in a happy state and be like, oh, I'm in the wrong place right now. Trust that if you are reaching for thoughts that feel better and you're trying to move up the emotional scale, even if you're not at happy yet, you're going in the right direction. Be kind to yourself. Choose thoughts about yourself that are kind. If I wake up and I'm in a shit mood, instead of being like, oh, I'm sick of being in a bad mood and whatever, just be like, you know what, I'm in a bad mood, but that's okay, because I'm just going to do my best today to reach for thoughts that feel just a little bit better. And just be real with yourself. Be like, you know what, I'm not there yet, but I will. And just soft general statements like that. Another thing, when you are feeling terrible, do not focus on anything that's very important to you with specificity, because the more specific you get in a bad mood, you're going to affect it. So try to be really general about things when you're in those states. If you, like, I don't know if you've noticed, like if you're having, say, a really bad day and your partner brings up something, then you get into an argument about it. It's just, you're more likely to cause drama and issues for yourself if you're taking action from when you're in those really bad states. So your number one goal is to find something to distract yourself, to break the chain of that momentum, because the more that you focus on something, it's going faster and faster and faster and faster and faster and faster. So you just want to like slow that down by completely turning your attention away and distracting yourself. Just like when a little kid falls over, the more that you freak out, the kid freaks out as well. And often parents will distract the child from the pain that they're feeling, being like, oh, look over here. And the kid will almost forget that they were in a bad mood or that they were in pain. And then they'll be able to find joy easier from that distracted state. So never discredit finding things to distract yourself with. Another thing to be mindful of is, and we all do this, when you're in a shit mood, don't call a friend who will get into agreement with you about how terrible things are. God, that's the big one, because I mean, it's so much more satisfying when somebody is there agreeing with you about how shit everything is, right? Like, you're like, yeah, see, they get it. But the thing is, when you both come together and you both agree that everything's terrible, and you don't remember the laws of the universe and what's actually true, which is that you are worthy and deserving, and that you do have creative control over what you attract. And so you meet up with these friends and you start crapping on about how everything's shit. You actually amplify that energy, and the likelihood of everything that you're complaining about will become amplified as well. So try not to get into complaining with other people. Try to just distract yourself and get yourself to a better feeling place. May not be joyful, it just might be a little bit of relief before you interact with somebody else, because you'll either find somebody that will match your energy, or you will find somebody who wasn't there and then you'll bring them down to your level. So you don't want to be doing that, because it's just going to amplify the energy. So try not to talk about what's going wrong too often, because it's not going to help. And in fact, with my client, I can remember a fair few clients who were a little bit shocked when they were like, oh, see, normally coaches will ask me a lot about my past and will map out what's happened up until this point. And I'm like, no, not me. I don't need to go back into your past to help you where you are right now. Your past does not dictate your future. Only your attention to your past will create more of your past in your future. Different places and different faces, but the same sort of vibration will keep happening. And that's where people recreate patterns in their life, and then they start to think that that pattern is an indicator of all that they're ever going to see. Like, for example, people that have toxic relationships or have had abusive partners, and they keep attracting more of that. It's because they're focusing on what's happened in the past, and so they're creating reality from what's already happened, and that's just regurgitation, and that's not satisfying to anyone, and it's quite distressing when you continuously see the same thing playing out over and over again. So you need to stop reliving the past and stop basing your worth on what has happened to you, and realize that you have creative control over what you focus on. And there is so much to focus on in this world. There is endless things for us to focus on. So it is a good time for you to shift your focus onto something that makes you feel good, rather than looking at the past, thinking about how terrible it all was for you. It's not going to help you. If you stay consistent enough with reaching for thoughts that feel better to you, you will find that eventually everything will start to shift, and you will be more predominantly in a state of feeling good than a state of feeling bad. Just like building a habit, it takes consistency, but once you're there, it's so much easier to manage. And I often say to people, the best cure is prevention. So once you get yourself to that state of pretty consistent contentment or even joy, then your number one job is maintaining that state rather than going down and up all the time. But when you're in those lower states, your number one job is just to start tracking in the right direction. Just start moving towards the light, moving towards things that make you feel better. And you know what enlightenment means? Lightening up on yourself. To be enlightened is to feel light in your being. So focus on things that make you feel good. Don't be so hard on yourself. Try not to take everything so seriously. Life is meant to be fun for you. Life is meant to be pleasing and exciting and joyful and peaceful, and you are made from love. So remember who you are, and never, ever stop trying to feel good, because that's the whole reason we want anything anyway, is so that we can feel good. So feeling good is the work. That is your number one job, to feel just even a little bit better than you did before, and you will find that your entire world will start to shift based on how you're feeling.